What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Survivor Now podcast, where you'll get the quickest, most in-depth reactions to everything Survivor. As always, I'm your host, Randy Bruce, and today I am joined by my two lovely co-anchors again. Josh is back, so, he's stuck with us now. At this point, he is stuck with us. And we are joined by Season 41 alum, Abraham. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great.
Having a great time tonight.
Oh, doing good? I'd love to hear it. It is Survivor Night, October 12th, and let me give you a quick rundown of what we just witnessed here before we get into our tribal takeaways. So we just watched Cody dominate the reward challenge. I mean, Cody had a great episode tonight in general, and he hoodwinked the Coco tribe, then helped the Baka tribe beat Coco at the immunity challenge in an extremely interesting fourth episode of Survivor 43. At the end of it all, we had to say goodbye to Lindsay. She kind of did that to herself, if I'm being honest, a victim of her own paranoia, which drove her tribe mates to turn on her and vote her out fourth. So, gentlemen, after all that is said and done, I'm going to start with Abraham here for our tribal takeaways. What are you taking away from, this jam-packed episode altogether? Because it was insane. There was a lot that happened this week.
It was three main episodes, three key takeaways for me. One, don't overgive. Just don't overgive. You get rid of everything. Secondly, try to calm yourself on Survivor. If you're the nervous one, 9 times out of 10, we've seen that you'll be voted out. And the biggest giveaway is what happens when you actually help another tribe win? What is going on? That's my takeaway.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about all that on this episode because there's a lot of controversial moments that happened this week. Josh, what are you taking away from this week's episode?
Yeah, first of all, upset that of the 3 Philadelphia area folks who started up this season, we've now lost 2 of the 3 in Lindsay and Mariah. So we are pretty much down to James. All the Philadelphia hopes now on James if he wants to follow in the line of great Philadelphia Survivor players. Second, I think Cody has already earned himself a return spot on a future season, and there are not many players you can say that who through 4 episodes you are like, this guy has to come back and play this game again. I don't care how far Cody goes. Like, I want to see more Cody, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about just his overall brilliance these first 4 episodes. And the third one, it was the most sort of amazing race-ish thing we've seen so far, and tribes really helping one another during to the challenge. I was okay with it. I know from the group chat you guys weren't okay with it, so I'm definitely excited to get into that because I know that's going to be super controversial.
Yes, and what I took away from this episode, from my point of view, is if you ever want to just completely rob a tribe, just threaten to take their machete. I'm sitting there, and we can just we'll touch base on this now and then go back more in depth a little bit later. But he's like, I want your machete. And they about lose it. Like, oh, they will not survive without it, which I think you could survive. I don't know. I've never been out there. Abe shaking his head no if you're listening to the podcast.
You need a machete. You need a machete.
But he ended up taking the fishing gear and part of their food supply because he just said, hey, I want your machete. So I thought Cody kind of robbed the Coco tribe, which we'll talk about Cody, like you said, Josh, and how good of an episode he had this week and how he's really, kind of controlling the game at this point. But let's get right into this week's elimination before we get more in depth into some of the controversial moments that I know we're going to be really talking in depth with. We say goodbye to Lindsay this week, and they had me fooled. They did, because I actually looked, I watched it with my family, and I looked at them, and I was like, this is Gio. This is an easy vote. They want you to think it's Lindsay, but this is going to end up being Gio. And they actually did pull the plug and turn on Lindsay just because the paranoia was out of this world. We've seen it before. There's just some people on the game of Survivor, and I might be one of those players if I ever go on the show. You get to the nitty gritty of voting someone off and they just lose it. They can't handle everyone walking off and talking. But Lindsay, she had multiple people, and really James, go to her and say, you're fine. And I love how James was like, I don't understand why you can tell someone they're fine and they're still paranoid. Well, James, it is Survivor, and everyone who goes home has been told that they're fine. So, Josh, I'll start with you on this point. What went wrong for Lindsay here with the paranoia? She just totally blew her game up.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much to break it down beyond that. I mean, Coco had not been to tribal council yet. She'd been able to stay pretty safe and secure for 7 days. You could see at the beginning of tribal council, it was a tribe that was in good shape and good spirits and was happy to be working together and was working well together until the other two tribes decided to, team together and knock them out, combined with, Ryan, right? Yeah, Ryan's sort of subpar throwing.
Yeah. I liked how you put that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the dude, he has overcome so much, right? Like, it's hard to be like, but
he's been an anchor for all.
Yeah, he's been awesome,
episodes.
But that was not his. I think he was trying to conserve some strength and not like throw over. But you saw a hard code. Anyways, to get back to where we were talking about.
Josh off.
I don't think there's too much to get into it. She just drove herself crazy.
Abraham, I mean, I hate to bring it up, but you were one of the early people voted out of the game. How hard is it going to that first tribal council? What's the feeling around camp? This is something that Josh and I wouldn't really know about. What's that feeling around camp when you're going to that first tribal council?
Well, I've had plenty of months to replay what I would have done differently. That's one thing. Here's the thing about it is, until you go to that first tribal council, it's going to be a little chaotic, and it's going to be you are unsure of who's who. But like all good tribes, Lindsay, you were not the target. And I don't understand how she put herself in that mentality that since nobody's talking to me, I might be the target. And you targeted Ryan. Ryan didn't have anything to say to anybody. He's been the workhorse of the tribe. So some people talked to you, some people didn't. I didn't talk to Tiffany before we voted. That could have changed the way my outcome. Votes could have went before me, but you just never know. And in this particular tribe here, we've seen it time and time again. You got to try to stay calm in those last. Here's the thing about it is, we only see the edited version. They have all day to go back and forth with all that stuff. And then you come down to when it's time to vote and you still unsure. She should have said nothing at tribal council, but you fell into Jeff's trap again. Jeff likes to pull information.
I was going to say, I feel like I almost feel like this was kind of a tribal council decision, because how she was speaking in tribal council, like kind of calling out her tribe members. Like, there are people who didn't come talk to me today. And then she kind of Ryan was like, I'm sorry that I didn't. I'll own up to it. Can we work together in the future? And she just flat out rejected him. Like, flat out, no, thank you. And I'm like,
she went main character syndrome. She just was like, she had to, that's what she hinted at it earlier when she was like, they should see me as a threat. I'm a big strategic threat. And it's like, yeah, but and not in a bad way, right? But it's not like you'd been running your tribe, right? Like you might be all of those things. You do seem like she's in good shape and she's smart, and I'm sure she can be all of those threats. But it's not like she's been Gio or Cody or someone who's like making all these big moves in the early game. It was their first tribal. There wasn't anybody out there yet who was like, wow, Lindsay is a real snake in the grass. We got to keep an eye on her. She can dominate this game later on. She hadn't established that yet in a good way, but she, in her own mind, made herself this main character of like, oh my God, I have to be the person. And from that lens, it distorted everything else that she viewed the way that the tribe dynamic was happening.
You want to say less at tribal council, more before you go to tribal council. You want to try to solidify your position, because Jeff is going to try to pull something out of you. And if you start going back and forth with other tribe mates, wrong time. Definitely less is more.
And if your alliance can't trust that at tribal council, you're not going to say something that's going to throw your entire alliance under the bus, like, especially in the early, it's their first tribal council. And now they're saying like, oh, it's our first tribal council and she's losing it. Like, do we want to go to more tribal councils and trust Lindsay?
I just don't even see where I totally understand what you're saying, Abraham. And I think we all get the point that, we're all not casual fans. Like, we all know there's a ton of time that doesn't make the airspace. But just from, if I'm going with what made the air based off what I saw, obviously, I don't even know why she was paranoid, because it really didn't seem to me that Ryan was talking like any game with anybody. If I'm being honest, it just didn't seem like Ryan was that active. Gio, he said it at tribal council. He's like, I feel good, but I just didn't really, he feels good, but he didn't really scramble and stuff around. So she keeps talking about how everyone's going off. But from my point of view, the people who were going off were people in her alliance. Like, isn't that the whole point of having an alliance? Like, if us three are in an alliance and we're like, sorry, Will, I'm going to throw your name out. We are missing Will.
I'm voting Will out. I'm voting Will out.
If all three of us decide we're voting Will and you two go off to talk, I'm not really going to be that nervous because you could be talking about anything. I know you have my back, or at least I feel that way. So that's why I was confused about why she was getting so paranoid. Like, the people that you should be concerned about, Gio and Ryan, didn't even seem like the people who were going out with the members of her alliance.
I also feel like it's your alliance, it's your first tribe, it's the people that you've been allied to. So either they're being honest with you and you're safe, or they're not and you're out, and there's really not much you can do about it. So you either just ride with it and don't bring all the attention to yourself, or you flip out and bring all the attention to yourself and get yourself voted out anyways.
You know what? You overplay the game of Survivor. Sometimes you just overthink it. You like, this is going to happen in the game of Survivor. If you got one person that sides with you, you got the strongest alliance you're going to get. The other people are either with somebody else or they're with that third person. But here's the thing about it is, you have to say, I have to trust somebody. Pick one person and say, I'm gonna put my trust in that person and get through that first tribal council.
On the flip side, you can argue Coco should never have been at tribal, or maybe wouldn't have been at tribal council if not for the fact that at the immunity challenge, two tribes worked together. Randy, I mean, you can tell by your reaction what was going through your mind when you're watching two tribes.
Let's get into this. Let's get into this, gentlemen, because I feel like this is going to be the majority of discussion here. I looked on Twitter, as you know, I run our Twitter account here. And people were all over the place. Marianne was quoted on Twitter saying that Vesey was ice cold for that one. So there was a wide variety of whether it's right to do, whether it's wrong to do. I like it in, all is fair in love and war. I understand why they were doing it. Now, what I'm about to say, everyone's going to go, boo. No, it should never be like that. I kind of feel like when you're done with the challenge, keep your mouth shut. Josh, I know you don't watch Australian Survivor, but this thing happened this last season when they were down to like the final 6, is that one person went over to another and literally like basically put the puzzle together for them. And there's a lot of controversy after that. And I just feel like it's not right. I do. But I don't think, I know what I just said is lame about like they need to keep quiet. I think that should be the rule. But on the flip side, I understand you can't make that the rule. And it's fair. If they want to help out, that's on them. But I did tweet out, I said, everyone's been complaining about Survivor doesn't have any villains anymore. They won't cast any villains on the show. That's your villain. That's as close as you're going to get to villains. I mean,
the whole tribe is a villain.
Yeah, you can boo the Vesey tribe now because they were all helping them. I mean, it started with Noelle and it went on to Cody and Dwight. It was the entire tribe. So if you're so desperate for Survivor to have villains, you just have to accept that it's never going to be the same what it used to be. This is as close as you're going to get. Those are your villains now.
Now, here's my problem with this. If you're going to break it down to 3 tribes, don't let another tribe help another tribe. You're actually saying, okay, we can basically now, what you just said was we can team up on day 1. On day 1 now, we can team up and say, hey, we want to eliminate that other tribe. And every opportunity we get, we're going to help the other tribe.
That's what I'm nervous about. Yep.
It comes to merge, and you still got the Coco tribe. They got all their members. Guess who's going to be the next tribe I'll eliminate? No matter what else is going on, none of those players will make it. I'll make sure you never get a sniffer of the top 3. But it's a mixed message. Yeah, do I like the twist in the game of Survivor? Of course, because it changes it. But do I like the fact that there's 3 tribes and you allow another tribe to help another tribe beat another tribe? No, I don't.
I mean, we're already talking about a game that allows people to go through their bags, to lie,
Hold up.
I think
No,
No,
it's not different.
I don't think that's different at all. Like, you're already saying there's a game. This is a game where there really aren't that many rules. And okay, so I didn't see the Australian episode, but I'm assuming the player didn't literally go over and move the puzzle.
They did
itself.
not. They ran over to the other side and just basically did the same thing. Told them put that piece there.
But
Put that.
So
Yeah.
theoretically, you could do that to mess with somebody and give them wrong instructions. So it's not like an automatic given that they're helping you. So there's that to play into it too. But no, I think okay. So I think if your biggest worry is that two tribes are going to gang up on a third tribe and knock them and whittle them all the way down. My counter argument to that would be that the tribes are generally balanced enough that after one or two eliminations, you're not going to want to continue. You're going to be looking at the tribe that maybe you've been working with, which I don't even know how you would really set that up until 4 episodes in when you realize, hey, this one tribe is doing well. Like by the time you eliminated a couple Coco players, we're either going to have a merge or a swap or something where Coco's not going to be nearly as good. And suddenly Baka's winning well and Vesi's going to be like, well, we're not going to keep working with Baka. Now they're dominant. So I don't really worry about two tribes like actually teaming up to like Pagong a third. I just can't see that realistically ever happening.
I think
but I don't even see where Vesi would go to eliminate Coco when Baka was a better choice because they could knock off one more member of Baka tribe. The whole thing didn't make sense at all.
Well, no, I was going to say, Abraham, that was my next point. I think they're putting too great of emphasis on the reason they did Coco is because Coco had not been the tribal council and they were still a full-fledged tribe, all 6 members. Right. So they're probably worried about once they get to the merge. I mean, Coco would be in the driver's seat. They could all team up and knock out. And there's theoretically not speaking, but
there's probably just a little bit of like, hey, we've been there, like they're already losing. Like we can help ensure that it wasn't like Coco had this massive lead. Vesi came from behind. Like Coco was already behind. They probably are going to lose that challenge. They haven't been to tribal. I feel like it kind of wasn't like, oh, this big plot of like let's turn on Coco, but just like, hey, right now it makes sense for us to help you guys.
I do feel like we're past the days though, with them putting so much emphasis on Coco has all 6 members. They need to go to tribal so they can vote someone off. I do think we're past the point of, tribe numbers really meaning something. I mean, gentlemen, if you can remember a moment, when was the last time that a tribe pagonged another tribe? I mean, it's been forever. We haven't seen that in...
It's been a long time.
Where tribe unity really mattered once we got to the merge, where the tribe's like, hey, we're sticking together. We're going to vote off everyone else. So I just, if I'm playing the game nowadays, I'm not even worried about that. Because every time you get to the merge, there's always someone ready to flip, especially with these small tribes. I mean, we're going to talk about it a little later on, but we're starting to see people rub others the wrong way. And there's only 6 members. So 2 people are not going to get along on such a small tribe. So I wouldn't even worry about tribes pagonging, another tribe.
Now, Randy, I want you to keep in mind, who did I say was going to tribal tonight?
Coco.
That's how they was going to get there. I didn't know how they was going to get there, but they got there.
There was one other interesting question as we were talking about villains that kind of popped into my mind, because I'm going to go sort of like big culture, right? There's this sort of like, in superhero, the anti-hero is a big thing now, right? The gritty person that sort of fights for good, but they're sort of a dark character. And I think Survivor has almost like the mirror image of that. And I wanted to ask you guys about maybe coming up with a name with it. And I think Cody fits that archetype. And it's the villain who isn't really a bad person, the survivor villain who actually has like some heroic qualities. Like Cody's a good dude, like Cody is not a villain, but he's a survivor villain, but he's whatever the opposite of an anti-hero is. And I don't know if anti-villain is the right word, but am I wrong? Like, tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. I'm trying to think of a word.
But maybe let's think of that for next time.
Superman. What's the opposite of Superman?
Black Adam?
Lex Luthor?
First of all, y'all,
Kryptonite?
It was the opposite, Berserker or something, where Superman had his alter ego.
No, I don't know.
I'm gonna get y'all a comic book. It's a whole Berserk. Everything is backwards.
Okay.
Superman has an alter ego where everything is backwards. That's how Cody is. Everything is backwards because Cody really wanted to take that machete. That's where you get the villain part from. He really wanted the machete.
No, he didn't.
But, well, he needed the machete.
He wanted it at first. He was like, guys, we need to take the machete. He even said his tribe's he's like, I want to go for the jugular. And everyone else is like, no, I mean, we can get into that before we get into Gabler here. But that was another. Oh, go ahead, Abraham.
I got to call this busted, man. How are you going to take fishing gear when nobody's caught any fish? Why would I give you 10 fish when you all got fishing gear, but nobody has shown one fish being ate? I'm not going to say anything about that, CBS.
Well, they didn't even take the fish. If anyone missed that, they switched it out for a fruit basket and a toolkit. Did they get both? I was so confused about that.
They got like the tools and also some fruit and some limes.
Yeah, so they like traded for fruit and the toolkit. And Cody, this episode, we can go ahead and go into. I mean, he had a good episode, but he did want that machete at first. He's like, guys, let's just take their machete. Like he's like, let's just weaken the tribe. And the tribe was not having any of it. So I wanted to ask you guys, are you more on Cody's side or the tribe side? Do you just kind of save face and let's not ruin any, let's not build any bridges here between us and let's just, or that's probably
burn any.
Yeah, burn any. Let's not burn any bridges here. Or do you just go for the jugular? Let's make them weak.
They did. Cody then went for the jugular anyway. So Cody should have just took the machete and called it a day and be done with it. Because here's the thing. The outcome is the same. Now you're going to chop and block with Vesey. Vesey's on the chopping block. And here's the thing about it is, take the machete, help somebody win immunity. Either way, they got to the same result. You pissed off another tribe. So they got there.
I have to disagree. And I think I'm going to go back to Randy, the point that you just made of that, with the tribes being small and the odds of a begonging being so unlikely, that it is helpful to not have, when you merge and you have three people that maybe are going to be thinking like, oh, Cody really came in for the jugular versus, oh, Cody wasn't as ruthless as he could have been, even though it kind of seemed like afterwards they were like, hey, maybe we got played a little bit by Cody. But
they for sure got played. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they definitely did. But whether or not they would all figure that out immediately. Yeah, I know. I think you want to try to play it like a little safe. You want to try, oh, I'm sorry to have to be doing this. I don't want to hurt you guys too badly. You like the air of we still want this equal competition, even though inside, like I want to hurt you in the deepest way possible. You don't want to be, then as soon as you reveal that, like, hey, I can be ruthless, right? Then you're giving your opponent's ammunition to turn around and be like, hey, Cody's ruthless. Look what he did to this tribe.
I look, I was like, are they going to give away that much stuff for fear of the machete being taken? So Cody being a salesperson is outstanding. I want to see Cody once he gets to the merge and see what happens. I
was almost yelling at my TV. I was like, what are we doing, people? Like, I would be irate if I was on that tribe and someone goes, if he's like, will you give me fishing gear and the food? And everyone's like, yeah, that's fine. I'd be like, are you insane? No, you can take the fishing gear or you can take the nice limes that we're offering you. Like, we're not doing both. And even if he takes a machete, I still think they could have survived without the machete. I almost feel like they could have. Didn't they have a saw? No, Baca had a saw.
I'm gonna disagree with that because the machete is the only thing you have to open up coconuts with. Because we tried it on rocks, didn't work. There's really no other way to get it. There's another way to get into coconuts, but you need a machete to make the other two. So taking the machete would have been crucial to the whole game for them.
I don't know. I think I'm almost willing to take the risk. You're going to be miserable, but I still look at it. CBS is not going to let you starve.
Josh,
they're not going to let you starve.
Is the machete necessary for the flint as well?
It is.
No.
They did. I thought they said you have to have it for the flint.
For the flint, you could use you have to find something else. But Josh, if you're on the show with Randy, I'm gonna need you to vote him out, guy.
I think even if you lose your machete, what you can hope is potentially like you can do without it for like a couple days and then, maybe barter down some of your fishing gear for it or some of your other stuff for it or win it at the next, rewards challenge. Like maybe that's the gamble you take.
Well, it was
It was
definitely
a smart move.
it was definitely a rough day for Coco in general. They lost their fishing gear. They lost for the first time after both tribes, conspired against them. They lost a tribe member and Lindsay. They lost a few limes, which were the worst looking limes I've ever seen. No appetite for those limes. But let's talk about another person who had a rough day in the form of a guy that we all love, and that's Gabler. We've spoken about him a lot. I don't know if anyone noticed this, but during the challenge, he was being ripped apart. First off, he was told to shut up when he was like, "Oh, do this," or "Oh, we're getting it, we're getting it." He was just cheering them on, and he was told to shut up because the other tribe started looking at him, or looking at the square they were building. And then later on in the challenge, he was giving advice, and Sammy was like, "Thank you, Doctor Professor," or "Thank you, Professor. Appreciate it," like in the most sarcastic voice. And then literally 2 seconds later, I'm pretty sure it was Sammy again who asked, "Does anyone have any advice?" And if I was Mike, I would have been like, "No. Oh, hell no. You got this. You do you, Sammy. Sorry, the professor's checked out." And then not only that, we had this scene to start off the episode where he was laying palm fronds on.
I don't know what was going on with that.
He was
Nature's blanket.
Like while they were sleeping. Abraham, if let's take you back to your island days. If you were in the middle, you finally fell asleep, and we know it's not easy to fall asleep on the island, but you finally fall asleep and someone wakes you up by laying palm fronds on you. How mad are you going to be?
First of all, their ants are everywhere, so don't put anything on me. We're sleeping with our heads covered up. It's a little colder where they're right now, when they film, but it was ants all on that stuff. And I didn't know. I was like, no, I'll just cover my head up. So that was a little quirky. I'm not gonna say it was just, he was trying to do something. But here's the thing: when you stop eating a regular meal, when all you're doing is drinking water, and you're trying to do some stuff, you're trying to do these challenges, you're gonna get touchy. And I gotta say, the therapist on the island, she was right. You gotta fight. You gotta figure out a way to navigate it. Because you don't want to just all out just bicker and argue the whole time. So you got to figure out how to navigate it. Gabler just hadn't figured out how to navigate it yet. Because I'm like, if you'd have woke me up, I'd have been like, look, I only had 2 hours worth of sleep. Stop.
I think they're kind of setting him up to be taken to the end.
You
that's
think?
a good one. That's a good one.
Okay, Josh, we're going to ask you to explain that more.
Yeah, I mean, like we've seen over the years, the characters and he's not as bad as a Philip, right? He's clearly not like that level, but we've seen people that have decided early on in the game, like, hey, this is a guy that eventually that nobody's going to vote for in the end. He's not going to do anything super strategic. And if I'm nice to him and keep him under my wing, he'll be loyal to me and he'll drive everybody else nuts. But nobody will take him seriously as a threat to win. And, the longer he sticks around, it wouldn't be surprising if he makes the merge to see him go really deep.
I definitely think he's in a position, especially with the immunity idol. And remember now, we still got a beware advantage out there. I think if he gets into the merge and he does not go to a tribal council before the merge, he's good to go. He's going to go deep because you can't vote him out. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays.
There's always going to be a bigger threat than him.
Are we convinced that the guys on the Baka tribe are going to stick together? Because that's how they've painted it so far. Nope. Sammy was the one. I loved his reaction to this. I loved it. He said, "Why is there a palm frond?"
He was just lying there.
He's like, he woke up and he's like, "Is there a palm frond on me?" And she's like, "Yes." Why is there a palm frond? Like, he had no idea why. It was perfect. But what are the dynamics with the Baka tribe right now? Or do we see it as night and day when it comes to kind of the guys are over here, the girls are over here? Is it that clear cut, or do we think there's more of an underlying, if they were to go to tribal, it'd be more interesting than that?
I think that Owen is going to be voted out, tell you the truth. Really, he's the only odd person out because Gabler and Sammy are good.
I feel like Owen's with them though.
Owen's with whoever he gets the upper hand with. Remember now, we had this whole thing about how great Owen was going to play the game and how many moves Owen's going to make. Owen almost got voted out on the first episode. We ain't seen Owen since.
Yeah, I mean, it's been now a week since Baca's been to Tribal, and similarly to how, you know, they went right off the bat. They voted off Mariah for reasons that, you know, it was tough. It was day 3. You know, you had to vote off somebody. And now it's a week later. It's almost in the situation that Coco was in today, where it's like, I don't think that it's just sort of a fluid moving around. And until they get like some sort of force applied to them, we'll call them a non-Newtonian fluid, right? There's how dorky I'm going to get. It's fluid until force is applied, and then it gets rigid. And I think until force is applied, we're not really like, they keep hinting at Gabler annoying everybody, but then like when push comes to shove, are they going to get rid of him? And I don't know. I do want to add in, by the way, I love Sammy. Like, he's like the opposite of Lindsay in that he's 19 and he is so chill and just like, I'm not going to ruffle feathers. Like, you just, the hint, you know, the fact that he was able to just like take that pom-pom laid on him, like, you know, he's got the right mentality for this. He's another one I definitely would like to see play in a future season.
I think we can all, go ahead, Abraham.
I'm with Josh. I would like to see Sammy go further. I'm not concerned about his age. But I am concerned that he's playing the game like it should be played. He's making the moves when he should. He's not overplaying, and he's kind of laid back, but he's also effective in helping in the challenges. But
he's playing like Michael Yerger.
Yeah, I definitely want to see how far he can go. It's going to be interesting, but he embraced the palm frond trees.
I think we can all agree that this cast as a whole is a great cast. There's not too many people. I mean, everyone has their stories, and I think everyone's super interesting. There's really no one this season that I'm like, I could care less about that person. Like, everyone I feel like has had a key input on the decisions that have been made so far this season, and they've had their airtime too. I got to give CBS credit. I don't know. Correct me if you guys see anyone that you think's getting a purple edit, but so far I think everyone's getting a pretty solid edit on the season.
This is funny, man. When Jesse and Cody were talking about what to take from another tribe, and Jesse was like, "Well, back in the days when I had tattoos on my face, I took that machete." But then he was like, "Well, now I'm still in a cul-de-sac." So I was like, "What does that have to do with it?" He said, "I live in a cul-de-sac now." I was like, "Okay, Jesse, I understand what you're saying, guy. You don't move out the neighborhood." You know, and we have those fun moments, and I like the fact that they got captured. We get a chance to live that through. But there's a couple people I wouldn't mind voting off. Dwight, I'm gonna vote you off for just being slow. I'm voting you off for not knowing how to untie a bag on Survivor with a lot more energy.
Oh my gosh, how I totally forgot about that. When Jeff's like, Dwight is moving as slow as possible, and he just gives him the old, "Oh, thanks, Jeffrey." I'm happy to be talking about the challenges though, because that challenge in particular was the reward challenge, which Josh, Abraham, and I have had this discussion. But real quick, I'm interested on your side of things. Are you a fan of having reward challenges in the episode? Like, do you prefer if we had them every episode like it used to be? Or?
Yeah, I do. I like having them. I like sort of the where they've gotten into where, you know, there's the occasional like reward and immunity, but then some episodes like this one where we've gotten a lot of camp life the last couple, and we're going to get some later on where they just, you know, they went to that reward challenge pretty quickly. And I was fine with that. You know, I think when you only have these hour-long episodes, if you did that every episode, you might be suffering for some camp life. But on the flip side, if you just did one challenge every episode, I think you'd go, "Oh man, I really miss some of the reward ones." So I like the mix of it. I think they've kind of figured out a little bit that rhythm that they can get into with it. So I'm good with it. I think actually I really can't complain too much about the editing. Randy, you nailed it. It feels like all the players are getting really good edits, even if the confessional counts aren't even. The people who aren't getting confessionals are getting a lot of screen time and doing other things, so you feel like you're getting to know them a lot. And we've gotten a really good mix of like camp life, strategy, comedy. I think they've done a really good job. I think the editors over the last 3 seasons have figured some things out they weren't doing as well.
Yeah, they're definitely, I think, doing a lot better when it comes to editing and giving us like the best hour of Survivor that they can. I do have a topic that I wanted to ask you guys.
Just to finish,
Right.
like,
Oh, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
just unrelated,
go
I
ahead.
should have mentioned this. Like, people complain about the loss of the credits, but I think
Yeah.
honestly, like, as much as we miss the credits, having an extra 90 seconds, it might seem like, oh, it's only 90 seconds, but you can show a lot in those 90 seconds. That's 90 seconds of extra strategy or 90 seconds of that funny Gabler camp life. With that's what that 90 seconds
No,
is.
I
And
agree. Yeah.
I think, the realization of like, hey, we can show more if we do away with that. That's the upside.
I would like to see an impactful reward. If it's just going to be a reward challenge, let's make it impactful. Let's say, hey, let's give them pizza. Something that impacts it so it can really have an outcome on when they do have to do the immunity challenge. Versus we've seen fishing gear and they gave them fish. Well, if you're against fishing gear, I don't care about fish. I wanna see a
Abraham, you've been
reward.
oh, my bad.
It used to be great. They used to have great rewards. I mean, we used to saw some great rewards. Now it's like you either get the fishing gear or you get the fish.
Abraham, you've been with me far too long and you're stealing my thunder, man, because that's exactly where I was going. That is exactly what I was going to say. I love reward challenges. I know some people don't like them. They say it takes up too much time. Some people just don't like challenges, which if you don't like challenges that much, is Survivor really for you? Because that's a big part of it. But let me put it like this. I love reward challenges, but I do think Survivor US has ruined them, basically. And by saying that, just what you just said, Abraham, it is pretty much the same rewards every year. We're going to start off with maybe some comfort, or the first challenge is going to be for your flint. And then we're going to do like comfort and then fishing gear. And then we're going to do like one fish that Tiffany got, the one big fish.
Hey, that one big fish.
Or we're going to do 10 fish. And I'm sure the next reward is going to be some small food, like a small bag of rice or something like that. Which I'm rewatching Survivor Palau right now, or Palau. Sorry, I said Palau. I just can't talk tonight. So I'm rewatching Survivor Palau because I need to finish all the seasons. That's the one I say I'm a super fan, and I still have never seen season 11 through 23, I think. But that's besides the
Can
point.
we do a series of podcasts as you get to like Panama and Cook
Yes,
Islands? Those
would,
are great seasons,
yes.
and we should.
I would definitely be down to do rewatches. But I was watching Survivor Palau earlier today, and I just got past the challenge. Remind you guys, this is the first time I've ever seen it. But I just got past the reward challenge where they went and swam with millions of jellyfish that could not sting you.
Oh, that was nice.
And it's an amazing experience. We saw people go to a volcano. We saw in Survivor Africa, they went to literally take care of kids and stuff, like donate school supplies and stuff like that. I won't list off too many more, but I'll say in the last season of Survivor South Africa, we saw 2 people go to a wildlife facility and actually got to see the process of taking care and dehorning of rhinos to protect them from poachers and stuff like that. And I miss that. I really, really wish I was super qualified and Jeff just reached out to me, because that would be one of the top things that I ask him is, why aren't we doing that anymore? And I'm sure he would reply with, well, we want to make it tougher for the contestants. We want them to actually feel like they're surviving. And I'm like, yeah, but to me, that was a big part of what I always enjoyed the reward challenges. Even the challenges where it's build a toilet and whoever has the best toilet outhouse then will fix your shelter for you and stuff like that.
Oh my God. The 4'5" local dude who would just show up at your camp and just know how to make your entire camp better. That was one of the greatest.
I just saw. I'm sorry that I promise I'll end after this one with listing them off, because you guys are like, okay, Randy, we get it. But I will say I just saw one where they flew over in Survivor Palau. They flew over with an airplane and they had to signal them, and whoever had the best signal got supplies dropped off. And I don't want to hear they're doing it to save money, because I can promise you, I'm no expert on budget, but I almost guarantee Survivor has a pretty good budget to at least do I'm not saying you have to spend money on an entire car anymore. If you don't want to do that, fine. but like just do something where, hey, we're gonna take you off the island and take you to like this local, shelter. Do something like that like doesn't cost that much, but helps out or teaches something. I'm for those moments. I'll stop my rant now. I'm so sorry.
One of my favorite ones was when I can't even remember what season it was, but they won like a 4-poster bed, and then it like poured rain, so they just had this like soaking wet bed that they were all sleeping on.
Go ahead, Abraham. I know
here's Josh, what you said. So there is a little guy that's on the island, and one day when we were sitting at camp that we got voted out, he basically took a fish, cooked it over an open fire, took the lime juice put lime juice on it. I don't know where he got the peppers from, and made the best fish I've ever tasted.
But that was at Ponderosa.
That was at Ponderosa, but it was the same. It's that fish everybody be talking about. They could do better. The rewards are trash. They could do way better.
They were on to something. I don't remember what season it was on, but they started implementing like new reward stuff that got really interesting. Remember when I can't remember, but one tribe won they got to spend the day on like a yacht and eat pizza, and then Cochrane actually like showed up at the yacht and gave them like advice and stuff like that. Like that would be cool. Just have like some castaway come back, do one appearance on the island and just give them advice. Like, so I don't know if you guys have anything else to add on. I know everyone's like, oh my god.
I will say most of the examples that you're bringing up, at least from my memory, are post-merge individual rewards. I don't believe most of the pre-merge tribal rewards were ever as exciting. Well, but I agree with you that I agree with you that overall it's gotten too stale, but I do think it's like a little bit apples and oranges because those things were a little later on in the game. But yeah, I think when you put yourself in this corner of everything is super tough and you start with nothing, then you have to offer the basics as your first rewards, because you can't be like, oh, well, sure, you don't have a flint or cooking supplies, but here's a bed. Like, nope, that doesn't really do much for them at that point.
And look, I wouldn't mind the fact that they got the fishing gear, but I need somebody to come up with some fish. I don't want the next reward to be fish. If I were giving you fishing gear, I don't want the reward to be fish.
No, that's a great way to put it. And I mean, I'm okay with the fishing gear. I think if anything, and one of the things that's bugging me the most, and I know it's probably never going to go away, this is probably just the new normal, I really am getting sick of them like using the flint like so much. Like you lose it after every time you lose a challenge, and then you have to fight to get it back, and the first challenge is always for the flint. I get that flint is like the most important thing. I'm just like, give them the flint. Just give them the flint, and then we can focus on other stuff. But the last thing I'll say to end this like giant point is, do you guys think you guys can tell when I really get passionate about something, because I kind of sit up and I'm like, okay, no. Do you guys think we're ever going to go back to that, or do you think this is just the new normal and it's going to stay like this for years and years to come?
I don't think so. I think for me, looking at the 40, 41, 42, and now 43, even with the challenge, where they had to use the challenge to walk across on the top of the boxes, I think they take the feedback and they try to build on it. So I don't think this is going to be the norm, but I do like a lot of the changes in 43 season that we didn't have in 41 and 42. So they're going in the right direction. So if you're going to create something new, you still got to work out some bugs. Those are just some bugs. I'm like, we had the same type of rewards 2 seasons ago. Let's move past those.
Josh, what about you, man? You think they're ever going to go away from it, or are we stuck on these 10 fish?
I think we're probably pretty stuck on it. As much as I hate to say that, because I think it's either that it's like the options are you have really difficult no food survivor that's shorter, and therefore we're going to have to make the rewards food because that's the only time we're really offering it, or we're nicer to the contestants and we give them more at the beginning, and we give them a flint, and they have a little more of a food source. They have some rice, they have some beans, and then we can be more creative with the rewards because they have some food, but people are going to complain, well, now it's only 26 days and they've got enough food, and so is it really Survivor anymore? And so my guess is they've weighed that back and forth and gone, well, we'd rather keep it Survivor rather than people think like, oh, it's a little bit more of a cushy experience so that we can give them some neat rewards. I think there's probably a middle ground to be found there some way, somehow.
You gotta keep faith. I mean, we did have Applebee's on season 42, which was fun to see, and then they did at least have the other part of the reward where they got to go to a different tribe's camp, which was really nice to see well.
The question is, when they were shooting 43 and 44, what were the COVID restrictions like in Fiji?
I am also curious about that. Like, what are the restrictions still?
Right, and maybe how much has that affected things, and maybe if by 45 and 46 the country's open back up again, then maybe they can do a little more, But I was looking at 42. They did do a stay at a sanctuary last season, so they've done they did some things.
Yeah, 41 and 42 was in the throes of the pandemic, 100%. So I can understand the limitations of production at that time. So you're right. I don't know what happened in 43 and 44. I'm pretty sure they weren't the same because by that time we had a lot of stuff going on to help. But again, as long as the show continues to grow and move forward, I'm good.
Would you rather, Randy, them get rid of the reward wins at like 6-5, 6-5, 7-6-5, where it's you get then an advantage in the immunity challenge?
I would. I really would. I know it might be. I'm sure there's people listening to this who are like, oh my gosh, it is not that big of a deal. To me, it was one of my favorite things about the show. I'm definitely not going to be one of those people that's like, oh, show's ruined, I'm done. Like, I'll survive, and I still am loving Survivor to this day. Love it.
Wait until you get to Survivor China, and then you're really gonna like the reward challenges in China are insane. And then you're really gonna be upset about it.
Names from China.
It's funny you brought up, Josh. Can we do something when you watch these seasons? Because I was just thinking about that today. I almost went live while I was watching it earlier today because I'm like, this would be really cool. Like, this would be bonus content. By the way, we did start a Patreon, so go check that out. We're looking to get more content out for you guys on Patreon, and I think that would be something really cool. Someone who's never seen any of these seasons, like going back and watching it for the first time. Like, I know who wins most of them, and I know like the characters. Obviously, I've done my research, but it's still cool to go back and watch them for the first time and everything. But I was also like, I don't know how much time you and Abraham had, so I was like thinking about like, what's the best way to do this? Like, watch-alongs on Fridays.
When I first was getting like really into Survivor, one of the first things I did, this was 2018, after I'd watched a few seasons, but then decided to go back and binge, I have like 20 Reddit posts in a row that were like my watch backs of 11. I think I started with Panama, actually was the first one I started writing, but like 12 through 27 or 28. And each season I did like a first time through, best move, worst move, thoughts about the season, et cetera, et cetera. So I would be happy to re-explore those seasons.
Oh man, we will definitely talk about this off air, everyone, and try to get it for you. What were you going to say?
That's a different Survivor. China, Philippines, different times, different Africa.
We would be here. We would be here all night if we start talking about like them going to different places. That's something that I wish they would just end the contract with Fiji. That's something that will probably never change. Abe, you've seen, before we get back to our closing statements here on the episode, you've seen every season, haven't you?
I have.
You have? Hey, incorrect. You need to go back and watch all the Australia seasons, sir.
And you know what? I didn't even realize they had an Australia Survivor until I started preparing to go for my season for Survivor. And I went to YouTube and I just started pulling up stuff and I was like, who's the host? That's not Jeff. And that's when I realized they had a different Survivor at that time. Because you got to think about it. When I started looking at Survivor, there was only one.
Yeah.
There was not any other Survivor. So, hey, but I'm happy to see Africa come on board and have their survivors thriving. Australia survivors thriving. Hope to see UK Survivor come out and thrive when they do their season. The more, the merrier. And definitely, if we have the international Survivor, I definitely want to be on that particular squad. I stay ready. And if I see Will out there, I'm voting him off.
Before we get to that, the last things I want to say for season 43, Josh, you said we've picked our winners. I was Team Ryan. Abraham picked Cody to win it all. So, Josh, Who are you? Do you have someone you like now? You said it takes a couple weeks for you to find someone that you like. We're 4 weeks in, buddy.
Oh no! I could have told you. I could have told you a week or two ago. No, I mean like how like in terms of who am I probably most rooting for at the moment?
Yeah.
It's probably Cody. I mean, just
It's your own
he's
player.
played the best game. He's done the most things so far,
Yeah.
right? And done them entertainingly in a way that you like him, and whatever that word is, the anti-villain that he is, like he's done it great. I got the list of players pulled up here. And then it's like I feel like after Cody, then I've got like a list of like 8 people that I'd like, oh, all these people would be great.
Would be good winners, yeah.
Like a Jesse, like a Noel, like a James.
I'm gonna throw Gio. I'm gonna put Gio out there. Gio.
I like Ryan. Just like I think he's got a great story, and it's like some of these people haven't done a ton yet, but it's 4 episodes in. Resumes aren't made in 4 episodes, so it's just about picking the people that you like and that you think are gonna like. I think Gabler is hilarious. I would love it if Gabler gets to 8 and then goes, okay, I've been waiting for this the whole time, and then just like all of a sudden starts like, really strategically picking through. But I think they're kind of setting him up for that late.
Josh is a smart man. He just gave us everyone.
No, I think Cody. I think Cody. As my number 1, and then I think like, but if I'm thinking like who actually could win,
yeah,
man, I feel like Jesse is gonna do really well in this game. I think man, he's smart. He's just so smart, and he's street smart and book smart, and he's just good. And like, if you want to pick somebody who's like not the alpha dude, it's like who's going to be in like that 2 and 3 spot and just sort of stay there.
I saw numerous people saying Cassidy might be getting like an Erica edit and could come out of nowhere to win.
Well, Cassie has spoke out that says, "Hey, we playing Survivor. I'll cut throat as much as I have to." So, and she made it past the first vote. But the hardest vote is that first vote.
But we haven't seen much of Coco yet, so it's like so hard to know if she's I don't know. I try not to read too much into the whole edit thing because I feel like if people are just the editors have to be aware of the Edgic thing by this point.
Yeah.
So now it's like, all right, they're gonna start.
Yeah, mixing it up. Yeah, I don't pay that close attention to it either. Gentlemen, before we open the polls for the fans to vote for Player of the Week, last week Carla barely beat out Noel for Player of the Week. It was a very tight battle. I actually had to like count numbers and everything. So she becomes our 3rd Player of the Week after Cody, and I forgot who won it. Oh, Ellie won week 1. So who wins Player of the Week in your guys' opinions for week 4 of Survivor? There's a lot of people to choose from here.
No, it's not Cody.
You don't think so?
It's Cody.
Really?
Yeah. Who's your other people? Cody is my.
He single-handedly won them that challenge.
Yeah.
Off a really good negotiation. And Coco, Lindsay did herself in. It wasn't like somebody spearheaded, like Lindsay spearheaded her own demise.
I was thinking I think Carla still had another good episode.
Carla.
She did. But just not as good as Cody.
I mean, was she there?
No, she was there.
Cody.
Okay, so if you want to go off what Josh and Abraham said here,
Cody. Right answer. The correct. If you want to pick the correct answer, vote for Cody.
So this will be well, those are our comments on episode 4 of Survivor 43. But now I want to talk about the breaking news that came out earlier today before we end the episode for good. And that was just a little comment that Jeff Probst, let's not blow it out of proportion, but everyone's been wanting this. And talking to Dalton Ross, Jeff Probst literally said, we've spoken about an international season. We're interested, but it is not the right time yet. And once you say yet, it gets everyone kind of saying, oh my gosh, it's finally going to happen. So I want to get Josh's opinions on this. I'll hear Abraham's as well, even though we've spoke earlier today on the live show. What do we think about this? My prediction is if it does happen, I'm instantly circling season 50 of Survivor. I just think that would be like the perfect time. Like 50th anniversary. You know, it's the 50th season. Let's do an international. And then another thing that is in the works, it is not solidified yet, but we have spoken about on Friday, and this is news to those two as well. I'm speaking with the Speaking Llama podcast and trying to get some other people in. We've spoken about doing like an ultimate Survivor draft where we just get on for like an hour or so and have fun and kind of draft like the 10 best players, you know, who we think are the best players and try to make the best tribe. So we've talked about doing that sometime and possibly making that available on our Patreon. But Josh, I'll go to you first. What do we think about this? And just for fun right now, if there was one player that we needed to represent the United States version of the show, who would you choose?
Sandra.
What?
Oh,
Not even that she's like.
I'm voting Josh out, man. I'm voting Josh out.
No, if you could pick one person to like represent U.S. Survivor, just for her attitude alone, like
I mean, the historic, yeah.
She is a great player. On top of that, but just to have Sandra's like anybody but me. Devil may care, who gives a fuck attitude, I think would be hilarious.
This is a discussion for a diffment day, but is she a great player? Because she won twice and yes. She hasn't made it past day 16 since.
Who cares? She won twice. Like, sorry, no, yeah, she's a great player. She won twice. So yeah, she's a great player. She won twice.
One day we're gonna talk Russell Hantz and the true game of Survivor. We're gonna let that. That's another day.
No,
Are you saying Russell Hantz should represent the United States? If
Philip Shepard would be my number 2 pick, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, of course not. I will say one day we got to discuss his playing style. I will say that. I'm going to come back and return to the Outcast, the U.S. version of it. So I don't necessarily have to come back in the international one because I'm coming back in Return of the Outcast. I'm putting that out there. You know what? I'm going to put my man Xander out there. I'm going to say Xander.
Okay.
Xander or Danny. That's what I'm putting out there.
I know we're all looking forward to a possible season where it brings all the Survivor kind of international versions together. I'm just going to throw it out there. And we've talked about also doing this, Josh, having an episode where we talk about who is the Survivor GOAT. And I'm going to say Tony would have to represent the United States in an international version. Because I
don't know if Tony would go back out, man. That would be a good question to get him on the podcast and ask him, would he do it again? Yeah. Ask him the magical question. Hey, would you do it again?
Make it happen.
But we'll definitely. Oh, go ahead, Abraham.
Who was Tony's? She won. Sarah. She came back and won. Hey, look, get back with me in December. I'll ask Sarah when I see her.
Heard. Well, that is it for the show, guys. We've covered everything. We've covered the news that have broke. We covered Survivor 43, and we're just going to keep chugging along on this Survivor train here to next week's episode, which is episode 5. I think Josh will not be here for next week's episode because he will be in Philadelphia for Bryson Wendell's event. If you guys are in Philadelphia, go to Bryson Wendell's event. It is a fun time. I promise you will enjoy the night. If you guys are in Atlanta, go with Abraham to Davies' event. Is that next Wednesday as well, Abraham?
No, it's on the 26th.
Okay, I was about to say it's just going to be me and Will. So Abraham will be here. We won't have Josh, and we are also in talks to have a very special guest next week as well. So possibly stay tuned with that. If he can't join next week, it will be coming up soon. So do you guys have anything else to say before we log off here?
Hey, if the schedule permits on the 26th, I'll do the live part with you.
Oh, perfect. Yep.
So I gotta wait to see if my costume comes in.
Thank you for bringing that up. Also, join us. We go live on Instagram every week, right before the episode, about 30 minutes before. You never know who's going to show up. We literally had the winner of Survivor's Australia Blood versus Water, Mark Wales, on the show earlier today. You never know who's going to show up. One time we had Tiffany, Brad, and JD get on, which JD never gets on anything. So
did you plan that? Did you plan Mark jumping on, or he just jumped on?
He just jumped on.
Oh, okay.
So you never know. But thank you guys for joining us. You can catch all of our social medias on our Instagram page at Survivor Now Podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll speak to you again next week.